Hey guys, it's been a very unexpectedly busy Friday news day, and I just wanted to jump on real quick before the weekend and give you a couple things to think about related to some of these big court cases that we're seeing in America. And before we get into some of the headlines that we're learning about, it's important to point out that the court of law and the court of public opinion are very different things. The court of public opinion is very much in flames, ignited over a variety of storylines attached to these cases. That's going to continue to burn. I'm going to leave that aside. What I'm going to talk to you about is the court of law, and a couple of things to note as you see these headlines cross in front of you. Hopefully will provide a little perspective, a little foundation for thinking about them. So first thing we're going to talk about today is the verdict in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. He's the man facing murder charges for shooting 3 people, killing 2 of them in the rioting, looting protest that happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin in 2020. Big news item to know is that he was found not guilty on all charges. He was facing very, very serious murder charges. So he's found not guilty of all of them. The jury could consider lesser charges, which is also important to note. And so that not guilty verdict is very important. Right now, he doesn't face any further charges. It is important to note that these were criminal charges. This is a criminal case. So could he potentially face civil or federal charges? He could potentially. Right now, that doesn't seem to be what's happening. There doesn't seem to be indication of that, but it could happen. He could also pursue legal proceedings. His family has hinted about defamation lawsuits, for example. So how this verdict on the criminal case impacts future legal strategy, we don't know right now, but it will. And it'll be something to watch. How did the jury arrive at this verdict? That's a big question. Some of you have already asked that. You know, the jury is anonymous, so we don't really know what happened. Whatever you're going to hear is speculation unless we hear from a juror. And they have the right, if they'd like, to go ahead and approach the media or tell their own story and kind of bring us behind the scenes about what actually were some of the determinant variables that led them in the direction that they arrived at, which was this not guilty verdict. We'll wait and see. But right now, we don't have any more insight into that because this jury is anonymous, at least for now. So we'll watch. Again, not guilty of any charges. This is the criminal case. The U.S. Constitution says that you cannot be charged with the same crime twice. So as far as a criminal case against Kyle Rittenhouse, this is the end. The chapter is closed. We'll wait to see if there's any further chapters to watch. All right, second case I want to talk to you about has to do with Julius Jones. He's a man that was found guilty of murder in Oklahoma. He was facing execution because his sentence was the death penalty, but the governor of Oklahoma in the final hours before that commuted his sentence. So let's talk a little bit about that. One of the things that we've talked about at Smarter News over the last couple of years is that there is growing consensus between Republican and Democrat states that is leading to a posture against the death penalty. And that's important to note because we talk a lot about division, but there seems to be a growing consensus on this for a variety of different reasons. It's not just all altruism. It's also just simply logistics, also expense. But for whatever reason, you are seeing a growing consensus against this. So you should know that. Commutations and pardons are interesting because they're only the power of the president or the governor, and they can only be used in certain ways for certain cases. So for example, the president could step in this particular case. A president could step in when it's a federal case. The governor could step in with this case. It's a criminal case. And so the governor commuted the sentence of Julius Jones. That does not change his conviction. It only changes his sentence. So under the eyes of the law, he is still guilty of murder. The governor said that he will face life in prison without the possibility of parole. And once someone commutes a sentence or pardons someone, that's it. There's no way to legally challenge it. So if I was governor and I decided to commute someone's sentence, like what I said goes. So it's a power that's not used very often, but when it is, it's important. That's my 2-year-old. When it does happen, it's important. And so notable that it happened at all, changes the fate of Julius Jones, and we'll continue to watch if there's any other developments in this case. But right now, he still is behind bars and again, still is convicted for the crime. So important to note. Final story I want to talk to you about has to do with the riots on January 6th at on the Capitol Hill. One of the most well-known people that is facing charges or has faced charges is known as the QAnon shaman, tomato. But you'll know this face as I show you an image of it. And he actually was convicted of obstructing Congress on that day. That was the one charge that he faced. So it wasn't aggravated assault. It wasn't trespassing. It was obstructing the business of Congress. He was sentenced this week to more than 3 years in prison. And what's significant about that, he's the most really well-known person to face charges because his image was just all over the place. In the aftermath of this event, it's also the longest sentence that we've seen given so far. So notable, and I wanted you to be aware of it. According to one report, there are nearly 700 people that face charges related to that day. And so you're seeing these slowly, the court cases work towards some sort of resolution, whatever that is in each particular case and the specifics involved. So hopefully this is helpful for you. I know there's a lot of questions about this, a lot of comments as well, and we're happy to take those. So keep those coming, and we'll have more on all these stories at smarternews.com. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.